My name is Ayolua Adewoye. Good morning to you all, wherever it is that you are listening from. And of course, it's a beautiful Thursday morning. Thank God it's a Thursday. As usual, of course, Thursday morning, it's always health tips and, of course, health talks with Dr. Felicia Yosharimi of from Smith Wellness Services. And, of course, this morning again, she's also in the studio for you, African listeners. Good morning, Dr. Felicia.
Good morning, Ayo. It's good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you here again on another beautiful Thursday.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
This morning.
Okay, so this morning we're going to talk on another system that stress actually affects. You know how stress affects another one of our systems. I'm actually going to talk on the circulatory system this morning. That's talking about our cardiovascular system. But before we go there, let me quickly just give out my condolences to the entire staff and management of Gobi Orthopedic Hospital. Lost their medical director, that's Dr. Mustafa Alimi, last week, yes, just before the Ramadan holiday. You know, he died during Ramadan. You know, Dr. Alimi is, in my family, everybody knows him. We had an incident in the family, and he was there on a Sunday where he was not even supposed to operate. He came in and did the operation. It lasted over 10 hours. You know, it was a shock to us. And so I'm just using this to reach out to every single staff and management of Igbobi Orthopedic Hospital, and to also let us know that medical practitioners, please, but also human beings, whatever we do, let's also take care of ourselves. As you care about other people and ensure that they get back to their health, please, you are also a human being and you also matter. You matter so much. All right. Okay, that's been said. Let's go to our deal for today. So, cardiovascular system. We'll talk about the cardiovascular system. We're talking about our circulatory system. Now, when you say something is circulating, it means it moves around continuously. So now, when we're talking about the circulatory system in animals, we're talking about, for human beings, is basically our heart and our vessels. Now, the heart and vessel is a very, very key and wonderful organ in networking, working together to ensure that at every time the body gets oxygen, the body gets nutrient-rich nutrients from the food we eat. These are the major work that the circulatory system does. It gets oxygen from the lungs. That's why, it circulates round, goes to the lungs, picks up oxygen, goes around the body. The oxygen becomes deoxygenated, goes back to the lungs again. It's a wonderful system that does a wonderful job. And what happens when stress is too much on the body is that cortisol, which is the major culprit when it comes to stress. I have said it that cortisol is not as if it's bad, but too much of it, that is when you get into chronic stress or consistent acute stress. You're always under one stress or the other. That is when you are going to have an issue. So for the cardiovascular system, you're going to have an issue when you're always under stress, whether it is psychological stress. In fact, psychological stress is the worst of all, because you can't actually see what's happening. It's happening on the inside. If it's physical stress, probably you have aches and pains here and there. You can go for a massage, you can come for a therapy, and you'll be good. But psychological stress is going on the inside. Nobody can actually say that there's something wrong with this person, and these are the kind of ones that actually leads to depression, anxiety, burnout. And even before it gets there, you can even start to have things like high blood pressure. You're at very, very high risk of high blood pressure, high risk of a heart attack, high risk of any heart ailment at all. That's cardiovascular ailment. Before you know it, your heartbeat can start to beat too fast. That's what we call that arrhythmia, that fast heartbeat. At rest, you have some people are just waking up and your pulse is on 100. Why? Your pulse should be like 60 at that time, because while you're sleeping, you're resting. Yes, your heart is still beating, but at least it's not supposed to be beating like you're carrying something, or you're under stress. So too much stress can either put you at risk of high blood pressure or even low blood pressure, when when the vessels are becoming too weak, or the vessels are too thick. All of these actually puts us at risk of a whole lot of cardiovascular ailments, which are preventable. Now, when food also comes in, you're under a lot of stress, and then your diet is also not being monitored. You're still eating anyhow. So that's way you have probably plagues. We call it plagues in the arteries. Now, what are these plagues? They are deposits of triglycerides, fat-like substances that do not burn out. I talked about the lymphatic system the other day, that if your lymphatic system is working very well, there's some fat that the lymphatic system helps to flush out of the body. But if the lymphatic system is not working properly, and then you have too much plagues around your arteries again, it's just a matter of time. You're going to come down with high blood pressure, because you're giving the heart too much work to do. As the heart is pumping, it will continue to pump, but because the vessel has now thinned out, either because of plagues or because it has thickened from too much stress, too much worry, there's a particular circumference that it's supposed to be. It can thicken. We call it either atherosclerosis or arteriosclerosis, depending on whether it's plague or is it thickening of our blood vessels. And when it happens to the vessel that is taking blood to the brain, that is what causes dizziness. It causes stroke. You can have either hemorrhagic stroke or ischemic stroke. Ischemic stroke is even still, it's caused by plagues and all of that. When you're able to flush out the fat content there, it can be easily, you can get yourself back easily. But hemorrhagic stroke, a lot of times it even affects you so much that even when you're okay, you might have lost some memory, because hemorrhagic stroke is the bursting of that vessel. It has so thinned out that the blood coming from the heart is too much for it, and then it bursts. That's why you find some people, probably, let's assume a performer. You see a performer just finished probably singing, and then all of a sudden the person just slumps. Most of the time it's hemorrhagic stroke, and that means the person has not been taking care, or has not been checking their blood pressure frequently, because these things would not happen in one day. Our body just doesn't come down in one day. It would always give you signs and symptoms. So when you're having these signs and symptoms, for example, you're always tired, you're always dizzy, you find yourself, your heart is beating fast. You would know when your heart is beating too fast. You would know that there's nothing wrong with me, but I can feel like a pound on my chest. So the best thing to do at that time, please go see your physician. And everybody should be able to operate a sphig at the moment, that's sphygmomanometer, to help you get your blood pressure at any time, and also blood sugar also, and also your cholesterol level, that's your triglyceride, your LDL, and your HDL, that's high density lipoprotein and low density lipoprotein. Too much stress can affect the vessels, and this can build up plagues, which can make all of these things increase. And this also will bring you at risk of diabetes. Before you know it, you might actually have neuropathy. A whole lot of things happens, so that's why we need to really, really watch our stress level. Now, prevention, please. Lifestyle, majorly our lifestyle. Please reduce stress. Whatever you cannot take care of as a human being, please let it go. Accept some things and let go, like losses, or accept it and let it go. You matter. Like I have said earlier, we all matter in the scheme of things in the long run. We all matter. Take care of, ensure that you take sufficient water on a daily basis. Don't say, because I took water yesterday. And please, water is not the same thing as a drink. No. Reduce carbonated drinks. In fact, if you find yourself with high blood pressure or low blood pressure, low blood pressure, you might even take once in a while carbonated drink or sugar, especially when you have low sugar content in your body, once in a while to boost. But if you find yourself with high blood pressure, please do away with junk food, do away with carbonated drinks, do away with anything processed. for any food we're going to eat, especially when you go to the supermarket, you would always see the manufacturers will always write it there that this thing was made with so. If you see anything processed there or saturated, just know that you're taking something that is not natural. If you don't have any health ailments, please make sure that you either limit it or do away with it in order to prevent. And if you do, just prevent, go natural, do more of plant-based. Also rest. Don't joke with your sleep. Like I will always tell anybody, okay, say it's work. Please, the work, Yoruba says that the work lifespan is longer than the lifespan of a human being. That's a proverb in Yoruba. So, depending on, it doesn't matter whatever work you're doing, don't prioritize your rest also. And also have a good relationship with your fellow human beings. Find people you can relate with. Different nature. Go out and make yourself happy. All right. So I'll close it here for today on cardiovascular. The effects of stress on the cardiovascular system, and I hope I have been able to drive home some points for all of us. To meet again next week. My name is still Dr. Faye Shayo. My contacts, you can reach me on 091 603 81840. My contact is still 0916 038 1840. My social media handles, YouTube and LinkedIn are Faye Shayo Sharomi. The Shayo with the Faye Shayo has an H. Facebook is Faye Shayo Sharomi. The Shayo does not have an H. Instagram is Smooth Ants. That's SMOOTANDS, Smooth Ants. And my TikTok is Smooth Wellness. I love you all. Stay blessed.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing that, Dr. Faye. It's glad to have you here. All right, stay tuned.